I'm a historian. I research the Holocaust perception in Ukraine, and as for Dnipro, I consider this city is my, I would say, historical homeland because I wasn't born there, but the few generations of my family before me lived in this city, and most of my life I spent there and studying on historical faculty. Yes, of course there is. If we speak about the official discourse, in the Soviet Union, the Soviet authorities didn't want to single out the Jews as a separate category of victims. They didn't deny the Holocaust, but they gave Jewish victims a different identity, euphemistic identity of Soviet citizens and Soviet peaceful citizens. The Holocaust discussion, this topic never existed in public discourse. The scale of this tragedy is so huge that it was not possible to hide this tragedy even in a few generations later. This memory was preserved in communication between people, between Jewish people, and communication between Jewish people and non-Jewish people. So everybody knew. They even could discuss it in some private conversation, but not in public, not in books, not in newspapers. The Soviet writers and creative intelligentsia try to bring this topic, Holocaust, to the public, but not always their pieces could reach the audience because of censorship. These restrictions on commemoration and open public discussions were lifted already in the late 80s, but of course in the 90s with the gaining independence, everybody could research, everybody could speak, everybody could spread the knowledge about the Holocaust in Ukraine, but in the same time the state did not declare any position on this issue, and all the initiative in commemoration, memorialization, and just learning, studying the Holocaust was in the hands of Jewish communities and private interested groups. Yeah, that's a very good question because there are many reasons, many obstacles, frankly, but one of the most general I can extract right from your question. It's a Ukrainian national narrative, what do we mean under this notion, Ukrainian national narrative? That is something after the Soviet Union collapse, we have to invent it from zero. What do we need to include in it, What is that? What do we call a Ukrainian political nation? It is also important to note that as a part of Soviet legacies, we received post-Soviet bureaucracy and post-Soviet historians who were trained and ready to fulfill the state order. The paradigm can't be changed immediately at once. It takes sometimes years, sometimes decades, and school students and university students needed the textbook immediately, So to incorporate the Holocaust into Ukrainian national narrative, we need to create this narrative, and we need to understand the methodological base and approaches in the creation of this narrative. That is a main obstacle. Yeah, right now we have such an agenda, it's very difficult to compete, That is why I'm afraid not so much people think and talk now about the Holocaust. but especially now where more and more Ukrainians become interested in their own history, yeah, because we can't expect that the Ukrainian society will perceive the Holocaust as a part of its own history when there are so many plots in Ukrainian history which is not perceived objectively, I would say. There are many ethnicities in Ukrainian army now, and inside of Ukraine there are also Ukrainian people, Jewish people, Romanian people, Crimean Tatars, and many other peoples. And I'm convinced that then after this war it won't be possible to write the history of Ukraine as only the history of Ukrainians, yeah, ethnic Ukrainians. I believe so.